Hi, welcome back again to this episode. Good learners, I am excited. This is the Blossoms of the Savannah Still excerpts. I'd promised you that we're going to look at a number of excerpts here, even as we're preparing for these November exams, end of exams, and which means that we are enlightening ourselves on the final touches, even as this particular text is coming to an end. Like literally, it's cozier. This is the last. And therefore, we are having also the final touches as per to this particular text. So therefore, without further much ado, let's get into the text and see what exactly we can do. Now, a prompt will look like the one below. Read the excerpt below and answer the questions that follow. Read the excerpt below and answer the questions that follow. Sasa yeyo, look at me. I'm ready for our visitor, Reshan said cheerfully, addressing her mother. How do you like my dress? Splendid, her mother answered cautiously. My little Reshan, how lovely you look, her father, who was uncharacteristically emotional, said. You almost look like a grown-up lady. What do you think, Olarinkoi? Olarinkoi, who was present that morning, looked up at Reshan, grunted and snorted. He then grinned in grudging admiration. Not bad, he said, looking at Reshan sheepishly. Not bad at all. Olosidori was time conscious. In the kind of business he had done in the large part of his working life, time was of the essence. As a gangster, he had to be punctual, precise, and punctilious. A small delay, inexactness, or careless disregard of the plan could not only result in missed opportunities, but could also prove to be fatal. Punctuality had therefore become his second nature. That was how he approached Reshan's issue. Like all other tasks he undertook, he approached it with singleness of mind. He planned meticulously, putting a precise time frame to it. His routine was well chosen and details taken into consideration. He had hired an anesthetist if the need to render Reshan unconscious arose. At 9:30 in the morning, they were assembled somewhere near Nasila. Olosidori was reviewing the detailed instructions that he had given anyone who was to take part in the task ahead. Except for him and his driver, none of the others were to appear anywhere near Olekailo's residence before 6 o'clock in the evening. They were to appear at 6 o'clock at the dot, pounce on the girl, seize her, carry her in to the car, and speed off. If there was a need to render her unconscious, that would be done on the way. The next stop would be at the house in Milimani Estate, Nakuru. The moment Tayo left, Reshan's confidence began to wane. She began to tremble, quite literally, in order that her mother did not notice how nervous she was. She excused herself and fled to her bedroom. But on seeing the carton into which they had packed all those gifts that Olosidori had given them, and which she intended to give back to him, her courage returned. She had vowed to face the monster gallantly, and it was foolish of her to develop cold feet at that point, especially after promising her sister that she would face him, come what may. She was in the battlefront, and success or failure was in her hands. She had to do it, even if her father would never forgive her. If she rebuffed him successfully, an inner voice told her a whole new world would open before her. She had therefore to be stoic and face the monster. Briefly, she glanced at the clock beside their bed. It was 9:45. That is the end of that particular tiny little excerpt. Good learners, you might as well want to pause between or take it slow so that you get the idea of the setting of the excerpt rather. Questions. Identify the irony in Reshan's words, I'm ready for our visitor. Okay, in other words, there is a verbal irony here in that while ready for her visitor implies that Roshan was prepared to welcome Ozodori, in actual fact, she and Tayo had planned to give him back the presents that he had given Roshan, and Roshan would also express to him her disgust with his idea of marrying her. Another one is that this is a dramatic irony since the audience asks rather, and Roshan knows that Roshan does not want to welcome Rosadori, while her parents think that she is eager to marry him. B. In view of events elsewhere in the novel, explain why Olaringo is said to grunt, snort, and grin in a grudging admiration of Roshan's appearance. Alright, Olaringo wanted to marry Roshan. Hence, his grudging admiration is brought about by jealousy since he feels that Oluzidori had beaten him in his plans. Later in the novel, we see him abducting Roshan as he pretends to rescue her from Oluzidori. He and his mother try to sneak Roshan into Tanzania. C. Oluzidori is referred to as a gangster in this excerpt. The information given in this excerpt and elsewhere in the novel justify why this is a fitting description of his character. In this excerpt, he intends to abduct Roshan, anesthetize her, and marry her by force. Now, elsewhere in the novel, we learn that he was an extortionist who would loan his victims large sums of money and help them to secure huge contracts, only to later make ridiculous demands on he and his victims in his grip. We also learn from the Nkoiboni that Oluzori had been a poacher who hunted elephants and rhinos illegally. D. The moment Tayo left, where had Tayo gone? Tayo had been sent to their uncle's home to help their Yeyo Botor. E. It was foolish of her to develop cold feet at that point. Explain the meaning of the underlined expression. In other words, feel the cold feet. Failed to go on with her plan due to fear of the consequences. F. Briefly describe the character of Oluzidori as seen in this excerpt. Oluzidori's characters they include meticulous. He had planned Roshan's abduction to the last small detail. Ruthless. He intended to have Roshan anesthetized if she tried to resist his abduction. He had a gang of thugs ready to do the work. Scheming. As a gangster, he had to be punctual, precise, and punctilious rather. G. In not more than 40 words, describe the arrangements that Oluzidori had made to kidnap Roshan. Now, some of the points will include, and of course this one you'll have to tailor to them so that you have a paragraph or two that is not less than 40 words, not more than 40 words. 1. Arrive at Oli Kailo's home at 6 in the evening, pounce on the girl, carry her to the car, speed off, render her unconscious on the way if necessary, and of course drive to his house in Milimani, Nakuru. Finally, good learners, describe what happens immediately after the events in this excerpt. That is, placing the excerpt in its immediate context. That is, after. What are the events that transpired after this one here? Roshan picks up the carton and leaves the bedroom. She sees Oluzidori alighting from the vehicle. She approaches him and hands the carton to him. Oluzidori looks at the carton appreciatively and thanks Roshan. And good learners, that also marks the end of this one right here. Find it useful. Make good use of this particular work because you never know. And above all, I just want to wish you from the bottom of my heart the very success even as you're preparing to sit for these exams. Cheers.